10%. 10%. Mason Gray's laughter bounced off the glass walls of his corner office like a slap to my face. You want a 10% raise after what, 12 years? At your age, Ryan? He couldn't finish his sentence before another wave of laughter shook his shoulders. I stood there frozen, clutching my portfolio of bridge designs, the proof of everything I'd built for this company. 12 years of late nights, missed family dinners, and innovations that saved millions in DOT contracts while he collected bonuses big enough to buy lake houses. Before that meeting, I'd rehearsed my pitch for weeks. Nicole had helped me practice at the kitchen table, playing devil's advocate while Aaron rolled his eyes from the couch. Dad, you've been there 12 years. They owe you more than 10%. Easy for him to say at 20. At 47, with his tuition bills and Dad's medical expenses, I couldn't afford to be cocky. I'd even worn my best shirt that morning, the blue one Nicole bought me for our anniversary. Stupid, looking back. Like dressing up would make Mason take me seriously. The bridge safety algorithm I designed cut inspection costs by 40%, I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. The Springfield Overpass project alone saved us $3.2 million. Mason waved his hand like he was swatting a fly, still chuckling as he leaned back in his leather chair. Infrastructure is going digital, Ryan. We need fresh perspectives, younger minds. He stared at me with that practiced CEO smile that never reached his eyes. Maybe it's time to consider the retirement track. I felt something break inside me, not my pride, something deeper. The foundation of 12 years believing that hard work and loyalty eventually got recognized. That experience meant something. I understand, I said quietly, collecting my portfolio. The pages felt heavy in my hands. Listen. Mason's voice softened with fake concern. You're good at what you do, but engineering is evolving. The board wants innovation, not just maintenance. That's just business. That's when I knew exactly what I would do. I'm Ryan Walsh, by the way. 47 years old, senior project engineer, Navy Seabees veteran, and until that moment, the kind of guy who kept his head down and did the work. The kind of man who stayed at the same company for 12 years despite being paid 20% below market rate because I believed loyalty meant something. Because I thought my work would speak for itself. I walked back to my desk on the 4th floor, past the glass offices of managers who'd been here half as long as me. My workstation sat in the corner surrounded by empty chairs. Our engineering department had shrunk from 18 people to 6 over the years. Not because we needed fewer engineers, but because my algorithms had automated so much of the routine work. My computer screen showed an email from the company newsletter. Feature story on how Mason's innovative bridge inspection program had landed our biggest client, the state DOT. My innovation, my 16-hour days for 8 months straight, my solution that revolutionized how they assess structural integrity. Beside my keyboard sat cold coffee I'd abandoned 2 hours ago when I finally gathered the courage to ask for that raise. Next to it, a photo of my family. Nicole, my wife of 23 years. Aaron, 20, junior at Ohio State studying engineering like his old man. Lisa, 18, heading to college next fall. And in the back, a smaller frame with my dad, 72 now, proud Navy veteran, who taught me that loyalty goes both ways. That night, I sat at our kitchen table with bills spread everywhere. Aaron's spring tuition, $12,000. Lisa's college applications, $800 in fees. Dad's new medications, $400 monthly. The mortgage we'd refinance twice to keep payments manageable. Nicole found me there at midnight, calculator in hand. Bad meeting with Mason? I told her everything. The laughter, the age comments, the retirement track suggestion. She listened without interrupting, the way she had for 23 years. What are you thinking? She asked. I'm thinking 12 years of loyalty got me laughed at. And maybe it's time to stop being loyal to people who aren't loyal back. Nicole pulled up a chair beside me. We'd been together since college, through my Navy years, through buying this house when Aaron was a baby. She knew my moods, my stubborn streaks, my pride. You know what Dad would have said? She asked. Her father, gone 3 years now, had been a steelworker for 35 years, laid off 6 months before retirement when the plant closed. What would he have said? He'd say a man provides for his family first. Everything else is luxury. And your mom? Mom would say you can't save everyone, but you can try to save the people you can. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a small black notebook. Inside were project ideas I'd worked on over the years. Personal projects, documented carefully with dates and development notes. Ideas I'd explored on weekends, refined on my home laptop, built on my own time. Ideas the company had implemented without formal paperwork because I'd been too eager to help, too willing to prove my worth. I flipped through the pages, stopping at notes from 3 years ago, a series of algorithms that became the backbone of our entire bridge inspection system. At the top of the page, my handwriting, personal project, predictive structural analysis, began 3/15/20, home development. What Mason never knew, what the company's legal department never bothered to investigate, was that I'd never signed over the rights to these innovations. The standard employment contract covered work done during company hours using company resources. My most valuable creations were documented as personal projects, developed on my own equipment during my own time. "Nicole," I said, looking up from the notebook, "what if I told you I could get us out of this financial pressure?" "All of it." She studied my face. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Mason just made the biggest mistake of his career. Over the next week, I did something I'd never done before. I researched my own market value. What I found made me sick to my stomach. Senior engineers with my experience were making $140K, $180K. I was at $95K. 12 years of loyalty had cost me over $500,000 in lost income. I started documenting everything. Every email where Mason took credit for my work. Every meeting where he dismissed my input. Every innovation I'd created that became company property without compensation. The evidence painted a clear picture. Systematic undervaluation wrapped in corporate speak. Aaron noticed the change first. He found me in the garage Saturday morning, laptop open, surrounded by printed emails and project files. "Dad, what's all this?" "Research," I said, not looking up from a spreadsheet showing industry salary comparisons. "Your old man's been getting played." He pulled up a work stool beside me. "How bad?" "Bad enough that I could have paid for your entire college education with what I should have been making." Aaron whistled low. "So what are you going to do?" I looked at my son, 20 years old and sharp as a tack. He'd inherited Nicole's common sense and my stubborn streak. "I'm going to stop being stupid." The personal projects folder on my home computer told the real story. Bridge inspection algorithms I'd written on weekends, safety protocols I'd developed after long days at the office, predictive models I'd built during family vacations while Nicole and the kids were at the beach. All time-stamped, all documented, all legally mine. My old Navy buddy Steve was now working at a patent law firm in Columbus. I called him Sunday night. "Ryan, you've got grounds for a hell of a lawsuit if you want it," he said after I emailed him my documentation. "But probably easier to just take your toys and go elsewhere." "What about non-compete?" "What non-compete?" "This contract is from 2011. They can't retroactively add restrictions. Plus, these personal projects predate any work agreements." That's when I knew I had real options. Monday morning, I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact I'd saved but never called. Hunter Stone, operations director at our biggest competitor. He'd reached out several times over the past 2 years, always professional, always respectful. His last message, sent 4 months ago: "The offer still stands when you're ready. We value experience here." My fingers hovered over the call button. 12 years of loyalty screamed at me to stop. Then I remembered Mason's laughter, the way he'd dismissed me like I was some obsolete piece of equipment. I pressed call. "Hunter Stone speaking. This is Ryan Walsh from Pinnacle Engineering Solutions. I believe we should finally have that conversation." "Ryan." I could hear genuine excitement in his voice. "I was beginning to think you'd never call. Are you free for dinner tonight?" That evening, I sat across from Hunter at a steakhouse that required reservations. He'd made one call and gotten us a table. That told me something about Apex Infrastructure's reputation. "I've followed your work for years," Hunter said, cutting his steak with precision. "The sudden leaps in Pinnacle's capabilities that coincided with gaps in your LinkedIn updates. Those bridge algorithms for the DOT contracts were game-changing." I felt my chest tighten. "How did you know that was me?" Hunter smiled, a genuine expression unlike Mason's practiced corporate grin. Because Mason Gray doesn't have the engineering background to understand the basics of structural analysis, let alone create predictive algorithms. We tried to reverse engineer them, and couldn't. That's when I knew we needed the mind behind them. Hunter was 43, 15 years of operations experience, MBA from Michigan. He spoke like someone who understood both the technical and business sides of engineering, nothing like Mason's buzzword-heavy management style. "What exactly are you offering?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. "Principal engineer position, 2.3 times your current salary, equity options, your own team of 8 engineers." He leaned forward. "But more importantly, recognition. Your name on your innovations, your patents filed under your name, your projects credited to you in client presentations." I nearly choked on my water. "My name on patents? Ryan, you'd be a named inventor on every algorithm, every system design, every innovation you create. That's how real companies operate." The conversation lasted 3 hours. Hunter explained Apex's structure, their growth plans, their need for senior technical leadership. They had 4 major state contracts and were bidding on 2 federal infrastructure programs. They needed someone who understood both the engineering and the politics of large-scale projects. "There's one more thing," I said as we finished dessert. I pulled out my black notebook. "Certain theoretical systems I developed on my own time using my own resources." Hunter's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. Personal intellectual property that was never formally acquired? Pinnacle implemented them, but never completed any acquisition paperwork. "I have documentation proving development timeline, personal ownership, everything." Hunter studied my notebook for several minutes. "We have a proper IP acquisition process with fair compensation. Unlike some companies, we don't expect to own our employees' personal creative output without payment." He looked up at me. "Ryan, if you brought these systems to Apex, we could revolutionize state bridge inspection protocols within 6 months. And if Pinnacle tried to claim ownership, they'd have to prove they legally acquired them. Based on what you're showing me, that seems unlikely." I drove home through empty streets, mind racing. Nicole was asleep, but she'd left a note on my pillow. "Whatever you're planning, I trust you. We're a team." I sat in our bedroom, looking at my family photos. Aaron's graduation, Lisa's science fair victory, our 20th anniversary trip. Nicole had been right that night at the kitchen table. A man provides for his family first. Mason Gray had laughed at my request for fairness. Hunter Stone was offering justice. The choice was simple. I opened my laptop and began typing my resignation letter. 2 weeks later, I placed my resignation letter on Mason's desk. He barely looked up from his computer screen, probably reviewing some PowerPoint about digital transformation or synergistic solutions. 2 weeks' notice. He scanned the letter quickly, then his head snapped up. "Where are you going?" I considered lying, but decided the truth had more impact. Apex Infrastructure Solutions. That got his full attention. His face went pale. "Our competitor? That's unfortunate timing. We're in final negotiations with the state to expand our DOT contract." "I know," I said calmly. "I built the inspection model for that proposal." Mason's expression shifted from surprise to something like panic. "We should discuss retention options. Perhaps that raise you mentioned. Maybe 15%, plus a promotion track. Apex is offering principal engineer at 2.3 times my current salary, plus equity and my own team." He laughed, but it sounded hollow now, desperate. "They're overpaying. You'll be disappointed when they realize you can't deliver what they're expecting." I smiled, feeling a confidence I hadn't experienced in years. "We'll see." Mason leaned back in his chair, trying to regain his composure. "Ryan, let's be realistic. You're 47. Starting over at a new company at your age, the learning curve alone will be brutal. You know what's brutal?" I met his stare directly. 12 years of loyalty getting laughed at. Watching you take credit for my innovations while telling me I'm too old for advancement. I never said you were too old. You suggested the retirement track, for asking for a 10% raise. Mason's jaw tightened. That was just, "Look, we can work something out. The board values your contributions." Funny. Last week the board didn't even know my name. Now suddenly they value my contributions? My last 2 weeks were surprisingly peaceful. I completed my transition documents, trained my replacement, a bright kid fresh from engineering school named Scott Mills, who seemed both excited and terrified by the systems he was inheriting. I also carefully backed up all my personal project documentation and made copies of every email where I'd shared my innovations without any formal transfer paperwork. The hardest part was saying goodbye to my colleagues. Rachel Turner from customer service had been there 14 years, too longer than me. She found me packing up my desk on my final Thursday. "So it's really happening," she said, watching me put my family photos in a box. 12 years is long enough to wait for recognition. Rachel nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about updating my resume too. This place isn't what it used to be." "What do you mean? Mason's been pushing out anyone over 45? Calls it refreshing the talent pool. 3 senior people in accounting, gone. 2 project managers with 20+ years, restructured out. You're just the latest." That hit me hard. I didn't know. He's systematic about it. Never fires anyone directly, just makes their jobs impossible until they quit. I looked around the engineering floor. When I started, this place hummed with experienced voices. People who'd learned from mistakes, who understood that good engineering takes time. Now it felt like a college computer lab. "Rachel, when you do update that resume, let me know. Apex is growing fast." On my final day, I met with Lucas Reed, our legal counsel, for the exit interview. Lucas was 38, Harvard Law, and always struck me as competent but trapped in a company that didn't value competence. "Just routine questions," he assured me, sliding papers across his desk. "Standard non-compete, confidentiality agreements, confirmation you're not taking company property." I reviewed the documents carefully. "I'm not signing the non-compete." Lucas blinked in surprise. "It's standard procedure. It wasn't in my original contract from 2011, and I'm not agreeing to it now." I met his gaze steadily. "Regarding company property, I'm not taking anything that belongs to Pinnacle. I am taking my personal intellectual property that was never formally acquired." "What personal property?" Lucas's forehead creased with concern. I opened my notebook, showing him dated entries. These algorithms and systems were developed on my personal time using my personal equipment. Pinnacle implemented them but never completed any acquisition process. Lucas's expression changed as he flipped through my documentation. I could see the recognition dawning in his eyes. These are core systems we use for everything." "Yes," I said simply. He stared at me, then back at the notebook. "I need to make some calls." "Of course, but my employment ends today, and my personal property leaves with me." I walked out of Pinnacle's headquarters for the last time at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday. The security guard, Pete, had been there since my first day. "Good luck out there, Mr. Walsh," he said, checking my ID badge one final time. "Thanks, Pete. Take care of yourself." By Monday morning, I was sitting in my new corner office at Apex, looking out at a view I'd only dreamed about. My nameplate read Ryan Walsh, Principal Engineer. Below it, a smaller plate, Structural Analytics Division. Hunter introduced me to my team that first morning, 8 engineers, ranging from recent graduates to seasoned professionals. 2 of them I recognized, former Pinnacle employees who'd made the jump to Apex over the past year. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hunter announced, "meet Ryan Walsh. You know his work even if you don't know his name. The Springfield Bridge algorithms, the predictive maintenance protocols, the cost optimization systems that revolutionize state inspections. That's all Ryan's engineering." I felt something I hadn't experienced in 12 years, public recognition for my work. "Our goal," I told my new team, "is simple. We're going to show the industry what happens when innovation gets proper support and recognition." That afternoon, I called Nicole from my office. "How's the first day?" she asked. "Different," I said, looking at my nameplate, my team of 8 engineers, my window view of the city. "Very different. Good different." I thought about Mason's laughter, about 12 years of being undervalued, about walking past those empty engineering desks at Pinnacle. "Yeah," I said, "good different." 8 weeks later, the first implementation of my systems went live at Apex. Bridge inspection efficiency improved by 35%. Cost savings hit $2.8 million in the first quarter. Our sales team approached the state DOT with data showing we could outperform Pinnacle's metrics by significant margins. The morning the state announced they were switching their primary contract to Apex, my phone rang. Mason's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called 4 more times before leaving a message. "Ryan, this is Mason. We need to discuss consulting opportunities immediately. Pinnacle is prepared to offer substantial compensation. Call me back as soon as possible." I saved the message, but didn't return the call. 3 days later, Mason was waiting by my truck in the Apex parking lot. This crossed every line of professional behavior. This is inappropriate, I said, keeping my distance. You've put 200 jobs at risk, he said, his voice urgent and desperate. Pinnacle is facing a crisis because of what you took. I didn't take anything that belonged to Pinnacle, I replied calmly. I took my personal intellectual property that Pinnacle used without proper acquisition. Nobody will believe that. It looks like corporate theft. I have dated documentation of every personal project, every implementation, and every conversation where ownership was never transferred. Your legal team never did their job, and you never valued mine enough to care about details. Mason stepped closer, desperation clear in his eyes. Name your price. Whatever Apex is paying, we'll triple it. I thought about those 12 years, about sitting at my desk while he took credit for my work, about his laughter when I asked for basic recognition after saving the company millions. You once told me infrastructure needs younger minds, I said quietly. Maybe it's time for fresh perspectives. I'm just following your business advice. The guilt hit me hardest 3 months later. I was reviewing Apex's quarterly numbers when Rachel called about the latest Pinnacle layoffs. 45 more people. Good people. Engineers I'd worked with for years, admin staff who remembered my kids' birthdays, project managers who'd covered for me when Dad was in the hospital. Ryan, Rachel's voice cracked. Jenny Martinez from accounting, 22 years there. They gave her 2-week severance. I stared out my corner office window. Below, construction crews worked on the new interstate bridge using my inspection protocols, my algorithms that had made Apex millions. I'll call Hunter tomorrow about expanding our recruitment program, I said. Will you? Her skepticism cut deep. Or will you be too busy counting your stock options? That night, I couldn't sleep. Nicole found me in the garage at 2 a.m., tinkering with my workbench. Regrets? She asked. About leaving Pinnacle? No. About how it happened? Every day. You didn't cause this, Ryan. Mason did. Tell that to Jenny Martinez. Nicole pulled up a chair beside me. You know what Dad would say? I smiled despite myself. Her father, gone 3 years now, had been a steelworker for 35 years. What would he say? He'd say a man provides for his family first. Everything else is luxury. And your mom? Mom would say you can't save everyone, but you can try to save who you can. That's when I decided to expand our hiring program beyond just recruitment. Training programs, placement services, even small business loans for people wanting to start independent consulting firms. If I was going to carry this weight, I might as well make it count for something. The following quarter, Pinnacle's stock fell 42%. They laid off 150 employees. Industry publications described it as a catastrophic loss of technical capability and mysterious deterioration of their award-winning inspection systems. Mason resigned under pressure from the board. I watched the announcement from my office while reviewing proposals from 5 new clients who'd switched from Pinnacle to Apex. Then came the lawsuit. Pinnacle sued me for theft of intellectual property. Their case fell apart when my documentation proved I'd developed the algorithms as personal projects. The judge dismissed it, noting that Pinnacle had failed to secure proper ownership of innovations they'd implemented. The morning after the case was dismissed, I received an unexpected email from Lucas Reed. Coffee? There's something you should know. We met at a diner halfway between offices. Lucas looked older, grayer than I remembered. I was laid off last month, he said. Part of the latest cuts. I'm sorry. Apex is hiring legal staff if you're interested. He shook his head. That's not why I wanted to talk. It's about your algorithms, your documentation. I tensed. The court already ruled. I know. They ruled correctly. Lucas leaned closer. But there's something you don't know. After you first mentioned personal projects in your exit interview, I went to Mason immediately, told him we needed to investigate before taking any action. And he showed me emails from 3 years ago. You'd sent him detailed explanations of your algorithms, asking if the company wanted to formally acquire them. You even suggested fair compensation terms. My coffee stopped halfway to my lips. I remember those emails. Mason replied, dismissing the need for formal acquisition. Said something like, just implement if it works, we'll sort details later. He knew exactly what you had created, that you documented it as personal work, and that the company never properly acquired it. He knew all along. Lucas nodded grimly. When you left and Apex started implementing your systems, he came to legal demanding we sue you, despite knowing he had no case. I told him the emails proved his negligence. He ordered me to proceed anyway. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know something important. Lucas met my eyes. What happened to Pinnacle wasn't just about you taking your property elsewhere. It was years of systematic arrogance. Mason didn't just undervalue you, he did it to everyone. Legal, operations, customer service. He treated the entire company like replaceable parts. I thought about this driving back to Apex. My revenge hadn't destroyed Pinnacle. It had simply revealed what was already broken. 18 months after walking out of Mason's office, I stood accepting the Regional Engineering Excellence Award. Looking at the audience, I saw many familiar faces from Pinnacle now wearing Apex badges. Innovation isn't just about algorithms, I said into the microphone. It's about recognizing value in people, treating experience as irreplaceable rather than disposable. Companies that understand this will always outperform those that don't. If you're questioning your own value in your workplace right now, remember this. Loyalty should flow both ways. Document your achievements, know your worth, and never apologize for asking to be valued appropriately. No one determines your value but you. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to be disposable.